Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Transpicuous News. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've done a news report, and as I've said privately to a lot of people and on the roundtable shows, I've just been kind of ignoring the news for the most part because, there's so much fuckery going on. But with the whole Brexistential bloodbath that has happened as of Friday, I felt, okay, time to break the silence. I'm going to have to come out and we're going to have to talk about this because there's a whole lot of stuff being talked about financially, economically, politically, with the Brexit stuff. And there's a whole lot of shit that's not being talked about at all. And it's kind of amazing what's not being said. Oh, the Brexit. Distraction, distraction, distraction. So in case you haven't heard the news, on Thursday, England, the United Kingdom, went to the polls for a referendum to vote on whether or not the UK should stay in the EU, the European Union. And, well, gosh darn it, the people, by a relatively small margin, voted to leave the European Union. And at that point, the entire world went, and it started. There was the economic fallout. There was the bloodbath. It was, oh my God. I have to admit, my favorite one, as far as the expression of the moment, zero hedge, the Brexistential bloodbath. And the follow to the markets, as soon as the announcement was made that, yes, the UK people have voted for Brexit. They voted to leave the European Union, which is, we're not even going to get into the actual background of all that one because there's just so much to be said and nowhere near enough time. We're going to focus just on the moving forward, kind of what happened, what didn't happen, and all the fucking distractions. So if you watch the markets, Thursday night, the vote comes in. The UK has voted to leave the European Union, according to this referendum. Remember, this is a referendum, though, folks. Just remember, it's just a referendum. And the markets went ballistic. There was a Brexistential bloodbath in the markets. No, it started in Japan, who was still up and going. They lost, I think, 8.5%, the Nikkei. The European markets just got trounced on Friday with, I think, France lost almost 10% in their market. But basically, everyone got hit. All the European markets took major hits. Spain, Italy, 8%, 7%. England lost 4.5% in their stock market. The US, the Dow, dropped 4%. The S&P, everything plummeted. And the bloodbath started, and cue talking heads to come up with the spin doctoring and the stories. And there's so much to this that's just not being said. And whenever you hear the glaring emptiness in the words, you know there's so much distraction going on. So we're gonna talk about this a little bit. Let's just talk a little bit about what's going on here. So, right, take a little review here. So we have crashing stock markets in the EU, Europe, and Japan. I mean, crashing. And everyone's, and the night before the Brexit vote, the pound sterling got its ass kicked, 37-year lows to the American dollar. There were lineups being shown all over the world. People were showing news flashes, people lining up at foreign currency exchanges in London, trying to buy dollars, US dollars, euros, trade in their pound sterling, etc. So never mind the distractions, okay? These are all the things that happened. But the question is not that they happened. The question is why did they actually happen? So we're going to take a look at some of the news stories, right? So you can go to Zero Hedge, and we can look at the guys put together all these wonderful charts. Oh, look at these charts, all kinds of red lines. They show you how, oh, they're falling, it's falling. Oh, the sky is falling, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. And we have interesting warnings, interesting things that get said. So, for example, Nomura warns, do not underestimate the global contagion from Brexit. We're going to set this up. We're going to set the stage. We're going to warn everyone, oh, if they vote to leave, there will be a global incident. It could going to affect markets globally. Let's set the stage. And the fallout. Of course, there's big articles. Oh, the Italian and the Spanish banks, Portuguese banks, they took scalar hits. Scalar, it was unbelievable. Oh my God, they lost, they plummeted. Germany's DAX plummeted 7%, the CAC over 8%. Actually, it was like almost 10%. We won't remind them of that. All these banks took such hard hits, these European banks, because of the Brexit vote. Really? I find it very interesting that, as I keep talking about on Transpicuous News, the fact that apparently the public's memory is very, very shallow and only goes back maybe a week or two, because apparently people don't remember the fact that the Italian and the Spanish banks have been taking these hits all year. Oh, all for the last year and a half. The Italian banks, the Spanish banks, the Portuguese banks, Bank of Scotland, they are bankrupt. This isn't a Brexit thing. This has nothing to do with the Brexit thing. They're fucking bankrupt. So this isn't new. These big crashes in numbers have nothing to do with the Brexit. This is just showing you what the fuck's been going on all along. You get interesting articles. This one at Adagwa Capital Markets put together a very interesting little article that people should maybe catch up on. I'll put the links down below. It's the stupid politics, stupid. And it talks about some of the financial stuff. It talks about some of the, the Brexistential bloodbath. But there's a couple interesting things that it talks about that are really important. So first of all, remember, this was just a referendum vote. Doesn't mean they're going to hold to this vote. As a matter of fact, I think it's really curious to see, what's this? The Leave vote may not even end up with the UK leaving. For example, the group putting together this whole referendum, they haven't even outlined how they imagine the separation from the EU would happen. So here we have a vote that was really, really pushed. It was media-sized by the media. It was propaganda across the planet. It was through the economy, the economic markets, the political realms. Everything really, really pushed this. But they have no plan actually in place. They have no step-by-step program of what, if we win this referendum, this is how we will separate and this is how we'll leave. That isn't even done. There's a very good reason for that. It's because it's not serious. Number one, it's not serious. Remember how the Greek people had that referendum? Oh, what was it, like last year? And they very blatantly called and told the world what they wanted. And basically that referendum made jack shit, didn't it? Didn't do anything. We have the Scottish referendum when Scotland wanted to leave England. That was full of fraud. I mean, the fraud was so blatant as to be unimaginable, and yet didn't really matter in the end run. Nothing really happened. All it was a big dog and pony show. It gives the illusion that the people have the power, but in actual fact, it doesn't change jack shit. So here we go. We have this big Brexit is blamed for everything happening in the markets, blamed for the European banks are falling. Oh, they're crashing the European banks and the ramifications. Okay, let's look at this. Just humor me. Just on the most simplistic view. In what way, shape, or form would the UK leaving the Eurozone have any ramifications with the contracts that are currently held by these various banks? Zero. They're contracts. Do you think that Santander, the Italian banks, Deutsche, do you really think that just because the UK might, could, would, should leave the Eurozone, that would in any way, shape, or form affect the contracts they already have in place? Of course not. You think the banks would allow that? Of course not. So how does this affect this? Now, it was really, really interesting. This morning, I got up this morning, I went and go listen to Max Kaiser, who I used to really love, back when he was private, before he went to the big time, back when he wasn't being controlled, a talking head. And I listened to his Brexit thing this morning, and all I talked about was, property bubbles in the UK and how it affects these markets. And it's like, really? Yeah. There's a massive crashing property bubble in the UK. It has nothing to do with Brexit. What you're seeing is the fallout of the situation as it is now. It has nothing to do with Brexit. It doesn't have anything to do with the UK being in or out of the EU or not. Really? People just aren't seeing it. It's what they're not talking about. Right? Again, day of reckoning for the banks in Italy, Spain, and Portugal have been kicked down the road for 18 months. Oh, that's right. On Friday, the ECB announced all kinds of special little things that they were going to do because of Brexit. Really? Because, see, here's the thing. We have all kinds of interesting reports. Interesting reports, i.e. this one, from June 14th, that the ECB, this is, an insider leaked this, ECB would pledge to backstop the markets after Brexit. If a Brexit goes through, the ECB pledged that they would backstop the markets. This, do you know what this is called? It's fancy words. This is called bail-in. Backstopping the markets is a fancy word for all these banks that are already bankrupt, that are already completely insolvent. They need an excuse to call in all the legislation they've all just passed for a bail-in. And that's pretty much what they got on Friday. A bail-in. Isn't that special? How the taxpayers' money can now be used to bail them in. Interesting. A little article here in a Spanish paper, I just had it translated, Berlin's resignation to criminalize public debt relief for Spain and Italy. Down here, very important, the Eurogroup pacta, an emergency plan was made before the Brexit. Everything, all this was prearranged before the Brexit. But in order to sell the bail-ins of the banks, in order to sell all the propaganda, you have to have an emergency. Kind of like a false flag attack? If you're going to sell all kinds of new arms limitations, and let's put gun bans in place, and let's put all these new UN Agenda 2030 plans in place. You got to have something to grab the public's attention, to give the excuse to put it in place. A la Brexit. Ta-da! Now, what's really interesting is the moment this vote took place in England, we have the opposition leaders in France and in the Netherlands calling for their own referendums to leave the European Union, which we knew. France has been threatening to leave the European Union, and Germany. What do we know? We know for a fact they started printing, let me rephrase that. I know for a fact that they started printing new Deutschmarks at least as early as 2010. Why? Because they knew the euro was collapsing, was going to collapse, and they would need their own currency. Greek drachmas, already printed. French francs, already printed. They're already done. The collapse of the European Union and the euro, more specifically, as a currency, is a done deal. They've been propping it up and playing the pretend game for almost 10 years. So you got to have a dog and pony show, though, to sell it to the public. What's the dog and pony show? Brexit's the dog and pony show. The conversation, so people looking at things like, well, what about the TTIP? Oh, this will mean the UK is getting out of the TTIP. No, they're not. No, they're not. If you think that this Brexit vote is going to, in any way, shape, or form, affect the outcome of the TTIP or a CETA, no. Don't listen to the talking heads. It's a distraction. Distract, distract, distract. Oh, what else? Oh, look at this. Texas is now calling for a vote of independence. The Texas wants to have a referendum to leave the United States. Now, of course, this has been ongoing for pretty much for as long as Texas has been part of the United States. But it's all a massive ball of distraction. How do you get people to buy it? You got to distract them from it. Right, so here we go. The London property bubble bursts. It's not Brexit's fault. It's been in place for months. It's because the economy is tanked. It was a property bubble. That's all. The European banks are collapsing? Yeah, been happening for months. There's nothing to do with Brexit. The TTIP and CETA? Yeah, no, it's not going to have any effect. Brexit will not have any effect. That's even if they leave. We've got other countries now saying that they want to leave. We're going to do this. Scotland has called for a new vote. Scotland's called for another referendum because they're saying they're going to split from the UK so that they can stay in the EU, which makes no fucking sense. I'm sorry, guys. My Scottish friends up there, you just don't get it. There's a new vote in the EU calling for a vote to re-vote on the referendum for Brexit. There's 2 million people already signed that. Now, there's another new referendum they're calling for with a new vote for London to leave the EU. Do you get it? It's all a distraction. And it's all seriously hysterical because none of these referendums mean jack shit. It's all a fucking distraction. It's all a distraction. It's all lies and bullshit. So, all I have to say on all this is, my friends, don't be distracted by the shadows. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. This is just a continuation of all the financial fuckery we've been discussing for years. Don't get your knickers in a twist. It's just more of the same. And sit back, make some popcorn. It's going to be interesting. That's it for Transpicuous News. I just wanted to talk about this just a little bit. I needed to rant for a moment. I'm hoping to have Transpicuous News back up and running a little more regularly very soon. It's been a matter of kind of having my own space to be able to work in because it's kind of hard to find around here right now. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled. Watch what plays out. A lot of false flags. We have the US and Canada warning people, travel advisories against going to Europe. Ooh, could get hot and heavy this summer. Or wet and rainy. Lots of lightning, dependingly. That's me. It's D. I'm out of here, but I will be back very, very soon. Bye, guys.